had to analyze the workings of the human mind. Hume's thoughts. Hume distinguished between the impressions and ideas. Impressions are made to the mind when we directly experience anything. Ideas not to arise directly from experience.
Very good, son.
Mom, why are you videoing me?
Because I want to show what a great job you're doing at notebooking.
Mom, Dad's calling you.
Cassie, Deputy with Deputy Tribe. I just wanted to give you guys a quick encouragement on something in your homeschool today. I want you to focus on teaching your kids how to learn instead of feeding them full of information. And it's oftentimes we need to learn how to do this. So I'm going to give you examples from our school lesson today. So today we read about Thomas Edison. We read about 2 chapters in his biography book, and we discussed many different things. Some of the inventors that he studied. We discussed some of the diseases that went on while he was alive. We discussed how as a young child he found what he was passionate about because he went out and tried things and failed. The business ventures he did before he was even 18 years old. That's kind of what we learned about today. So after we were done reading, we had a discussion, and I asked them questions about what happened, so they were getting some reading comprehension. But also we discussed, for instance, Thomas Edison decided that there was news going on about the Civil War, and he saw it as life-changing news. So he took the risk of investing all his money in 1,000 newspapers and turned around and sold them all for a crazy profit. And so we talked about analyzing risk versus benefit and when it's appropriate to take risks and when it's not. So we talked a lot of discussion-wise, right? Getting them to think about what they read and how it applies to their life. Like, what are you passionate about, right? What are some things that you think you might be passionate about? What are some things that you're interested in exploring to see if maybe you are passionate about them or you're not? So is aviation a passion of yours? Is baking a passion of yours? Is science experiments a passion of yours? Is music a passion of yours? Like, what can I do to help you go down the road of that passion, right? Thomas Edison's mom let him set up a lab in his house with chemicals and do experiments and things. What can I do to fuel your passion? So then I have them notebook, and I've done a few videos on notebooking before. So they each took something from this story that interested them, right? So Alicia and Haven noticed all the names of the inventors of the books that he read. So they looked into all the inventors during that time that Thomas Edison was interested in. So I'm teaching them how do I get information about that, right? Will we use schoolhouseteachers.com, and I'll include the link below. And so we have a subscription to them, so I have access to a ton of information. And it also comes with a subscription to World Books, which is an online encyclopedia. So my kids can use the encyclopedia. How do we use the library? How do I get books on stuff that I'm interested in learning? So I teach them how to use the library system. Where can we go to learn about these things? Like we talked about train cars today, right? So they could go to a train place and interview conductors. We can learn about how the train system works. Like teaching your children, how do I get the information I want to feed these interests that I have? And if your children aren't interested in things, I would challenge you in this. How much electronics do they get? If they're watching TV, playing on iPads, playing video games, watching movies, they're not going to be interested in business ventures and reading books and experimenting with things and studying things and learning things. They're not going to have that fire because honestly, addiction to electronics really quenches that fire. So these are the things that we're doing today. So my kids are using encyclopedias. Some of them are using YouTube as a resource to watch some short documentaries or videos from Prager University or other educational sites that put videos together to help them get information. Some of them are like, hey, I read a book about this. Like, I'm going to go grab that book and kind of dig deeper into how these tie together, right? So these equip your kids with how to learn and the love for learning, an environment to learn and explore their interests, and just feed them interests. Thomas Edison's mom pulled him out of the public school system because his teacher was failing him, taught him to read. And he didn't know he wasn't schooled at all until after the age of 8, you guys. He didn't do any schooling formally. And just taught him to read, and Thomas Edison consumed books. And his mom went out and found books that interested her son and just fed him books, kept feeding his interests, let him set up a lab, let him do science experiments all day long. And we now benefit from that today with the inventions that Thomas Edison brought into the world. So home educating. Teach your kids how to learn, okay? Give them resources, cut off electronics and garbage entertainment so your kids love learning. It's exciting to learn. It's exciting to start new ventures and go on new avenues of interests, right? So let's do that today. Teach your kids how to learn and give them an environment where learning can happen. Your job is to facilitate their learning. Teach them how to read, teach them how to get information, and feed them good things to spark those interests and feed those passions and those interests and those curiosities that they have. So that is my encouragement for you moms or dads homeschooling today. Teach your kids how to learn. Jesus is coming. Hey guys, I actually want to jump back in here. I forgot to mention or answer the question, what about little kids? How do I teach them how to learn and things like that? So here's a clip of my son Elias doing his notebooking. I'll put that right here. And what I have my little kids do is, depending on the maturity of your kids and things like that, my littlest kids will simply listen to the story and partake in some of the discussion, or I'll ask them really pointed, simple questions just to gain an interest in reading comprehension. And then Elias is about 8. You're 8, right? He's 8. So he's starting the process of learning how to notebook. So he's remembering things from the story, and he's picking what stuck out to him the most. And then he's drawing pictures and coming up with sentences. So he's learning how to structure sentences and writing them out in cursive. So if you saw, he told me what he wanted to write about. So I copied it on the board for him. And then he in turn is copying that into his notebook. So he's getting reading comprehension. He's learning to communicate through writing and speaking and dialogue and answering questions, what he learned. But then he's also getting the handwriting, the spelling, the grammar, the punctuation, and all of that through forming sentences and copying them onto his paper. So that is how we kind of start that whole process. And then if he needs to look back, I sometimes will have him look back and tell me how to spell certain things so that he's learning how to find the answers in his book. Now, I have audiobooks that we listen to while we read. So while the audiobook's reading out loud, he's following along in the book. So he's getting a wider range of grammar and learning how sentences are formed that way. So he's hearing it being read, he's following along, he's forming his own words, his own thoughts, and he's putting them on paper. And then he has a cool book of all the things that he's learned. So we're slowly building up to the part where they're able to research things themselves and gather information and love learning. So that's what I wanted to end with. Jesus is coming.